Fans, it's time now to meet the starters for this evening's game.
Best laid plans is what they always say. Welcome back to Braves Talk. This is the Iceman, Matt Freites. That is the OG Rick and the coach, Brad Powell, over on the other side. Some technical difficulties to start this. I want to peek behind the curtain a little bit. We like to do this. This is my attic. What is behind me is my attic, and they are sitting in front of a green screen in their basement. This is what's going to happen sometimes. The best laid plans never work out. Flub the intro, everything else. But I want to bring something positive to the table as we get started, and we will get into the game action and everything. But I want to introduce Bradley Nation to somebody who is very important to me. Come around. Who's very important to me, and Coach and OG know this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Here he is. Here he is.
Hi, James.
For everybody who is not aware, this is my son, James Allen. James, will you say hello to everybody watching?
Hello, everybody.
Exactly.
Hello,
So I wanted
He's got
to bring
his Bradley
him on.
Red on.
He does have his Bradley Red on. I wanted to bring him up here to get to meet the fine folks.
Daddy, Mommy said I gotta do this quickly, so I'm doing it quickly, okay?
That's a good point. You're doing it quickly. So can you tell everybody, go Braves,
Go Brave.
and to have a good night.
Have a good night.
And we will see you on Sunday for the Super Bowl.
And we'll see you on Sunday for the Super Bowl.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, buddy. All right,
See
so I
James.
wanted to get some positivity out there so that we could start this all over again. Love you, buddy. So let's get to talking about the Braves, gentlemen. How you doing?
Iceman, doing well. Doing better now than I was at 9 p.m. Wednesday night.
Or 9
approximately.
p.m. 10 minutes ago.
Or 9 p.m. 10 minutes. And then obviously some power issues last night. Small tornado north of town over this way. And I wasn't even home yet, so I was oblivious. I was indoor 5 minutes, power's out. But yeah, back to the Braves. Came up short on Wednesday night, but it's the Valley, as we always say, and that's going to happen, unfortunately. And we can talk more about that here in a few minutes. But I know that this man next to me, Dad, is pretty excited about tomorrow's game, though, for sure.
Yep.
Absolutely. So we do have a lot to talk about this week, tornadoes aside. And it was a rough game, but let's get into the game. So obviously the Braves go to Evansville, lose what I consider a heartbreaker by 73-70. The final shot, which could have tied the game, Duke Dean, doesn't count, and it is what it is, right? Inconsistent performance, I think, because they were down really big, and Brad was embarrassed because this was the first Bradley game I'd watched in full. I've got it on my phone. I'm trying to put my son to bed, and I think it was like 19-4 or something like that, and you're like, this is embarrassing. Like, I'm so sorry this is happening. And they come back, but the second half, we went live, or I went live, and you were there, kind of inconsistent. It is what it is, right? So Duke Dean has a decent game, pace of the team with 15. Ben Hummerkaus comes back with 14. He had an integral foul, or was part of an integral foul at the end of the game. And look, the big picture, I think, is still in a positive space, but I want to get your initial reactions to the game. You first, Brad, and then my man, the OG, come in right after him.
Yeah, so obviously we got off to a slow start, no doubt about that. And then one of the things that concerned me, and it's funny because I kind of took some notes to myself during the first half, like things I wanted to make sure to remember about how I was feeling during that time. And the second half, my notes kind of fell off because I was so engaged in the game. There was a lot to really pay attention to at that point in time. But 12 turnovers in the first half, it's hard to win that way. And just simply shots not falling, which
Yes,
you got to put in the bucket or in the basket to win. And we were not able to do that, especially early in the first half. And, I wish we were more aggressive going to the basket, but I just have to accept that that's not who this team is this year. And it's not for a lack of trying. I mean, I think that we make an effort to do that. It's just not our strength right now. And then also on top of that, to segue, I felt like we had a lot of one-on-one play early in the first half, and that may have been by design. Maybe we liked some of the matchups. We liked our athleticism and thought, let's just go out there and take it to these guys a little bit. But it did not play out in our favor, I didn't think, early. And then, like you mentioned, 19-4, the margin got to 15 at one point in time. And then Hickman and Leon's going scoreless in the first half is also not a recipe for success. And all the while, when this is happening, I'm telling you that although I did say, man, this team is better than this, I'm sorry that this is the way this has started for you. I told you I wasn't worried because I was like, if we can close the gap We haven't played 2 poor halves consecutively with Hickman all year, and I don't think we're going to do it tonight. And so if we can close this gap and get it in the single digits before halftime, I like our chances in the second half. And we were 0.1 seconds away from making me a profit, but that's those are the breaks, I guess. So that's just kind of my real quick analysis of how I felt about the game overall, and it really a tale of two halves, which has been Bradley's identity a little bit this season. And we're learning, though. I think we're learning that, and I hope they're learning that you can't beat, especially the good teams, that way. You didn't beat one of the lesser teams in the league that way, and that's certainly not going to get the job done tomorrow against Drake.
And when you say profit, you mean profit as in like your FanDuel account, or you mean like a profit?
No, man, I have like a strict personal. Now, granted, like on the typical betting sites, you cannot bet in-state against in-state teams or for in-state collegiate teams, but I kind of have a hard fast rule. Like, I don't bet on teams that I'm like emotionally invested in. That's try fair. Not to, anyways. It's too much. It's enough already. Just riding the wave of being a fan. And then you add something like that on top of it, and it could get out of control really fast. So I try not to. I try to steer clear of that.
Good point, Rick. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep. No problem. No, I think we just came out totally unfocused, especially on offense. I thought our defense really wasn't too bad, although we have played much better in the past. We had some very good shots that just did not fall, that we've been hitting. And not getting the rebounds, the offensive rebounds early, not playing in your face defense like we normally have been doing, got us in that 15-point hole. But neither Brad nor myself got worried. I was as relaxed when we were 15 down as I was when we were down by 3, and with the seconds coming to an end. But because we've done it before, we've been down by 23 and come back, just this year, and even more or less.
You can't count on that, though.
No, I know you can't count on it, but it was too early in the game to just panic.
Yeah, it was really early.
Knowing that we do play good defense, our guys are going to start hitting shots, which they did. Hickman and Leon's both had 0 points at the half. Leon's ended up with 9, and Hick was what?
14.
Hick had 14.
14. So, there you go. If they'd have knocked down a couple more shots in the first half, we'd have been on top. So
yeah, Hickman had a weirdly inconsistent shooting night too. He was less than 50% from the field, 5 of 12.
Yeah, something but I think a lot of it just comes down to we weren't focused.
And I said that last week, remember, when we were prepping for this, and you got, and it wasn't like you guys were like, nah, we got this. It was more like,
well, I think because
usually we're focused, and
I don't like the term trap game, and essentially that's kind of what it was. But Evansville's not a bad team, and they brought their best player to come back, which elevates a couple other players that played pretty well, but I think outside of Hummerkaus, there wasn't another player on Evansville that was in double figures.
No, but you also said that they were kind of like Bradley and that they went through a slump without him, and then they're a different team with him. And the thing I noticed, and I don't know if you guys picked up on this in the second half, and I think I even said this a lot when I was live, is they can't get a stop when they need one. And it was like every time they'd make a bucket, go up, the momentum shifting in their direction, Evansville would come at it like a dozen times. They need to get a stop here. And it was either some BS shot that went in or they got a foul, and it was like every time. Yeah. And sometimes that's the breaks. Right. Sometimes that's how it goes.
Yeah. And it was just Evansville's night, I think, right? It was their night. And once
we were their Super Bowl.
Yes. A lot of people were saying
and that's what happens though. Like when you're the defending league champions, you're gonna be a circled game on the calendar for everybody. In a program with the tradition of Bradley maybe amplifies that even more. And then of course they have a former Bradley player on their roster, which I'm sure adds a little bit of fuel to the fire, I would imagine. And I know that late in the game, I think Duke Dean took an ill-advised 3 like way early in the shot clock, and I know there were a lot of people that were pretty upset about that. And obviously
I was upset about it.
Yeah, not a super Super great decision at that point in time, but that didn't lose the game. You know what I mean? Like you have to look back. There were a lot of things that happened throughout that game.
It's a collection of
especially in
things
the
that get
first
to a
half.
loss. Yeah.
And
Coach after post game show Wednesday night said his first I think initial reaction was defense. We just can't play defense. But then he was on the radio talk show this morning and kind of retracted that a little bit. Said our defense really wasn't too bad. Our offense, 17 turnovers. That's uncharacteristic of the way we've been the last month and a half, 2 months. Is that many turnovers. Usually it's not been more than 11 or 12 in a game, but 17, 7 ill-advised shots. And Coach Wardle even said there was a couple of different times, a couple of guys were playing, didn't know where they were supposed to be. So, I mean, they looked, they were, a couple of guys were lost. So then I think on a defensive end in this particular game, and I've seen it not just this game, but other games, is our freshman. And that is Kyle Thomas, Birch, and even Allison. When they get drove on, they'll run into, a little screen, they'll slip past it. But in all that process, and sometimes there's not even a screen, the guy that they're on blows right by them. And it happens every game, 2 or 3 times a game. So that's on film. Teams are going to watch that. So we need to either create some help or these guys need to get it and get themselves in a better angled position to not let them get by them. So, but that's happened several times.
I'm sure Coach Wardle goes to the film afterwards, as any good
he
coach
does.
would, right? And
Yep.
so just looking at the box score, right, you have 8 of 27 in the first half from the field for Bradley, and you're not going to win shooting less than 30%.
Yep.
But they were over 50% in the second half.
Yep.
So that's probably more characteristic of the team. That
Yep.
you would say the second half is more characteristic of the team. It's just unfortunate that, as Brad said, I think it was just Evansville's night. Like they almost couldn't miss when Bradley needed them to miss. And I thought the back and forth on Twitter was entertaining from my perspective anyway. But I don't think that it takes away from where Bradley still is. I mean, you kind of need that win because Drake ends up eking out a win against Southern. And obviously Indiana State now, there's some distance there. So the number 1 seed's probably out of the picture. But Bradley still is in a good place for where they could be overall. Right. It just sucks when you lose to a team that that you're better than. But it happens. That's why they play. Yep. By the way, before we get going here, I just want to remind everybody that if you want to give some takes or say hello, you can call or text. Right now we're live, so I won't be answering the phone. But if you want to text 703-718-6314, we have received a few on our line here. A couple of people talking about turnovers. Malavi Leon's having 6, and some people, Ted, saying hello to the show. So either a comment or send some text messages. We love to hear from the folks in Bradley Nation, and keep it coming, all right?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, chime in, guys. Hop in the comment section on YouTube, type your comments in there, text, and you can call anytime and you can leave a message and we can play it on the next show or something like that if you have a general statement. But yeah, you mentioned that the overall goal is still well within reach, and I think that's it right now. I mean, we talked last show about kind of the pipe dream that maybe was out there of an at-large bid. That ship has sailed, and that's fine. And so we can put that behind us and focus on the task at hand, which is putting ourselves in a position to win Arch Madness. And I believe this team is 1,000% capable of doing that. Like you mentioned, the number 1 seed probably locked up right now in Indiana State. I know that there are some possibilities percentage-wise for Drake to sneak up there, and Bradley might even have a very, very, very small chance, but I'm not even counting on that. And you got the bracket right there.
Yeah, let's take a look at that.
As of today, I want to make this clear. We're going to do this every episode until we get there. For those of you who are listening, we'll try to walk through this in an audio sense. But right now I'm showing the projected bracket. If the tournament were to start today, I'm talking about Arch Madness right now. And I mean, Bradley's in the same position that they were when we did our episode last Saturday. So it's not as if they're in dire straits now where they're suddenly on the same side of the bracket as Indiana State. And look, they're going to have to win some tough games in order to win and get to the NCAA tournament. But this is kind of what it looks like now. So, Rick, what do you think about where they are right now? And do you think that if it all ends this way, that they're still in good shape?
Yeah, they're going to be either the 2nd or 3rd seed, in my deepest opinion. And it's really not, the only thing then it's going to matter is we're going to play the 6th seed or we're going to play the 7th seed. So, I mean, and neither one of them, I mean, competition wise, neither of those are going to be easy games,
No.
For us. Drake, though, they'll have the same option. They're either going to play the 6 or the 7, depends on how they finish. We beat them twice. We're in, and win the rest of our games, even along with them. We get them tomorrow and get them at their place. And I'm not sure what the tiebreaker is if we split, but outside of, I don't know what the first. Anyway, I'm not even going to go in there right now. But anyway, it's either going to be the 2nd or 3rd seed, and unless we totally fall off the cliff from here and then we drop even further.
Yeah, that's not going to happen though. That's not going to happen. I have no doubts about that. This team is historically Brian World teams have always played their best basketball in February and into March, and I don't expect it to change. And I'm really amped about tomorrow because I think it's going to be an example of that. That's going to set the tone for the rest of the month and put us in position to do some damage at Arch Madness. And what team does Bradley not want to run into? Jonah asks, and I'm not afraid of anybody, and I don't think that Bradley is. Obviously, Missouri State is streaky, weird. Like, they're not very good. I don't think they're very well coached, but they're talented, and if they get hot, they can cause you problems. Xavier Johnson at Southern Illinois, always a concern. He's one of the best players in the league. Murray State's another team that's really athletic that can get hot and cause you some problems. And Belmont, if they get hot from 3,
they got Gillespie back.
So they have Gillespie back. I mean, really, every team is pretty darn solid. I mean, outside of Valpo is very solidly probably the worst team in the league right now. Anybody else, if the chips fall their way and you don't show up on top of your game ready to play ball, they can get you.
Yeah.
And so, but does that mean that we're worried about playing anybody? I don't think so. Not one bit.
Now, the phrase from Brian Wardle this morning was respect all, fear none.
Yeah.
So.
We definitely want to respect, because I was thinking about this as we're preparing for this and as I'm flubbing the intro and all that good stuff that goes into, a professional broadcast like we're doing here. And it's like, regular season games are one thing. You can look ahead in the regular season, things happen. It's a long season. But once you get into these winner go home scenarios, I think it's a lot different. And as you said, you got to respect every team because, Valpo's not very good. Missouri State is streaky. But when you get to these situations, it represents the same opportunity for them as it does for Bradley. Win as many games as you can, and we could get to the NCAA tournament. It usually doesn't happen, but there is even a Cinderella element to these small tournaments. And so a team like Bradley, who is one of the more talented teams in the conference, has to make sure that they are on lock and on point. And I think even a loss this past week kind of gets them refocused, at least I think. And it can't snowball into Saturday's game because that's a crucial game. But I think that they are better prepared now mentally. It's like, all right, maybe we got that out of the way. And maybe that's not a thing. Maybe people don't believe in that, but I kind of believe in that, where sometimes you need to get slapped in the face to kind of come to reality. And perhaps this team has done that, and they're going to go on a massive run here and get to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, because it's very different to lose a tight game in overtime to Indiana State on the road, right? And then it is to lose on a Wednesday night at Evansville in front of 300 people.
It was
you know what I mean? It's a very different situation because you walk out of Terre Haute obviously not happy because you were right there, but you're like, but you're thinking to yourselves, we're right there. I mean, this is a team we can get down at St. Louis if we get the opportunity. And, Evansville, you walk out of there with a little different feeling, I imagine. And I tweeted out right after the game, like, I would not want to play this Bradley team on Saturday because I do think that a loss like that to a team like that can refocus a group. And it drives some people crazy, but Brian Wardle is always like, I think he loves being the underdog. He loves having that chip on his shoulder, loves being able to go into the locker room and say, hey, there's people that are doubting you guys now. There's people out there starting to question if you're tough enough, if you guys are cut out to do this. And I think he leans into that somewhat, and they seem to be at their best when they have sort of like I said, that underdog mentality. And if whatever, man, like if that loss at Evansville is what it took to catapult us to go on a run and win the conference tournament, I'll take that all day, man.
Yeah, but there were positives to take, right? Because you had the biggest comeback in school history earlier this season. And then in this game, you're down big early, and a lot of teams will fold, but they end up coming back. Now, I get it. They can't ultimately make it happen at the end, but it's not like they made this run and then faded again. They were in the game the whole time. So it tells me that Bradley is a dangerous team in the sense that you may think you have them on the ropes. Don't let up on the gas pedal because they score and can kind of turn it on defensively whenever they need to. And that's a dangerous combination. And it's a dangerous combination for a team that's sitting in the 5 seed or the 4 seed in the NCAA tournament too. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, we won the tournament as a 5 seed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's talking about you get to the dance, man. And
That's what I'm
that's
saying, the dance,
and that's what happens. I was kind of trying to give myself a little perspective and looking back to 2019 and the 2020 season when we won the tournament in back-to-back years. And 2019, we were a 5 seed, and we went on a 5-game losing streak right in the middle of the Valley season and lost some head scratchers and then go on to win the conference tournament. The next year, there were a couple bad losses, like a loss at Miami of Ohio, losing at Valparaiso, but we ended up being the 3 seed and going on to win the tournament again. So we've been here before. We've been through this, and obviously, we won the whole league last year, and then came up short. Not that that's goes hand in hand. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying, but where we are does not count us out by any means because we've lived it and we've seen it, and we've seen this coach do it, and I believe, man. Like that's all I can say.
Yeah.
I know that's like huge. Like I'm just being a homer, but I love this team, and I have no doubt in my mind that they're going to be ready to go.
Yeah, and as you said, Rick, before we even came on here, at this point, you're over the Evansville game, and we're moving on to Drake. So let's talk about Saturday, because big game at home at Carver against a team that you need to win against. And I think the crowd's going to be at a fever pitch for this game. I think the team is going to be motivated, but let's kind of talk about some things. We also got a text message from Ted about this game, and he said that this is a thing that he is hypothesizing, the 30 to 35 plus minutes a game from our Big Four might be rearing its ugly head. And he did say something that made me laugh based off of what we said last week, that they need some better minutes from Thomas, Meta, and Davis. What do you guys think about that?
Oh, Meta's going to get time tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's already been said by Wardle, because he needs somebody a little bit bigger, massive size to go up against Brody. Not that, I think Meta's not going to be an offensive threat. And it's not even a question. He's going to be out there to create some defensive distractions for them. I'm not sure how many points Brody's.
You've got to be able to put. He's the biggest body we have. You've got to be able to put a big body on him for stretches in the game, and that's the game plan. Me and Dad talked about this offline like last week. I think just looking ahead to this game, because Meta hasn't played a lot lately, and we're like, this is a game where it seems like he's definitely going to get minutes, and obviously coach has already said that's going to be the case, and I completely understand why you're going to do that. It makes perfect sense to me. I get that maybe the production hasn't been what some people would like, and there's no getting around that necessarily, but he's the biggest body we have, and we've got to put a big one on Brody if we want to keep him in check.
What else do you guys think is going to be keys to the game besides size? I mean, obviously you have a big guy, you're trying to go size for size there, but what are you looking for them? Are you looking for them to come out hot? Are you just looking for them to come out consistent? Because after this particular game, there's always a worry that the mentality could be low, but I think Coach Royal is going to have this team ready. But What are you guys looking for in the first 5 minutes of the game?
Focus on the job at hand. Hitting your shots, when you get them open, working effort, no silly mistakes, keep turnovers down.
Yeah, I'm looking just for like sort of a bounce back, right? I figure tonight I'm gonna have a bounce back beer, man. I got my Braves brew here from home of the Brave, having a bounce back beer. I encourage you to do the same.
I like it.
At home, but Looking at the game, I do want to see some, like Dad said, some focus and to see us try to minimize our mistakes early. We don't want to eliminate self-imposed mistakes, unforced errors, and those are things that every coach is going to say. But those are the things you're going to have to do to beat a good team like this. And Darren DeVries, who Tony Seghetti informed me is definitely a junior, not a senior, as I said last time, unfortunately. So he's a problem. He player of the year last year. He's going to come out, and if we can just contain him, you're never going to shut him down. But if we can contain him and keep him from going, I understand that with different rosters, and I know a lot of guys are back. But last year we had Malavai, defensive player of the year, and Malavai is back. But you also had Rank and some other pieces like Jay Sean. You had some pieces that could help you out there that were good defensive players.
But he had a much better support staff or, supporting cast with him in teams past. He doesn't have as good a supporting cast. His, supporting cast right now is Brody and Enright. There's a couple of, the other guards that's not bad, but
yeah, I get there are guys that are gone from that roster last year, but that's still a damn good basketball team, and he's still a damn good player. And we're going to have to answer the DeVries question, and I imagine that Malavai is going to be the answer to that question.
Well,
and the one thing you say about Malavai this year, his offensive game has been up and down at times, but he's been rock solid on defense, as expected, and that's the kind of stuff that doesn't always show up in a traditional stat sheet that people don't see. But he does all the little things, all those things that you're not going to see in a box score that make a huge, huge difference. And that's what we're going to need him to do tomorrow. Obviously, if we can get something from him on offense, that will be helpful.
Yep.
But his number one job tomorrow, I'm sure, is to contain Tucker.
And I got to do it right now. Right.
Do it.
Returning points from this game from last year to this year. In other words, the game that was played at home, the last game that we won the regular season with, the returning points for the rostered players, 45-25 favor of Bradley. The starters is 39-23. Brody had 12, DeVries had 11, and Ferguson had 2.
Gotcha. So
of the same from their team that's returning for this game, that was the point production.
I don't know that the transitive property will apply there, but because
officiating matters.
Let's break down those numbers from the tournament championship game. They're probably not as favorable in our direction, but
no.
And it's a red
There's
out.
There's other
man.
reasons for that though too.
Yeah, it's a red out. Everybody's gonna have their red on, and hopefully we get a good crowd. It's not going to be like the crowd was last year. With
home games and crowds make a difference.
The league championship on the line, but I expect a decent crowd being a Saturday, 5 p.m. start. The weather's nice. Sometimes inclement weather keeps some folks away from Carver once in a while, but that shouldn't be an issue tomorrow. Looking forward to a raucous environment, right? One of the buzzwords. So, yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I was going to say, so Rick, you talked about officiating, and I'm not a conspiracy theory guy or anything like that, but when you look at the breakdown of free throws shot by Evansville and shot by Bradley last time, 23 for Evansville, 10 for Bradley. And that kind of a discrepancy isn't necessarily indicative of home cooking, but it certainly helps when you have 13 more opportunities to put up 13 more points, right? And so those things I think do matter. And sometimes it happens, right? You get some home cooking. And I'm not saying that these refs are like paid by these universities, but being at home a lot of times helps. And I think in a big game like this, if they were going back to back on the road, I would feel a lot worse about this game after the way that they played, because as you said, Brad, it's tough to win on the road in the Valley. It doesn't matter who you're playing. But I think from going to that environment, which according to the box score, it says 3,500 people were at the game. I'm not buying that for a second.
They all must have been in line at the concession stand.
I was going to say, somebody fudged that number.
Coach Wardle said it was one of the bigger crowds that they've had when we've been there to play them.
That's a
in the
backhanded
last several
compliment.
years. So
Backhanded compliment is what that is. I'm just coming out and saying it. I don't know Coach Wardle at all, but let me just say that's a backhanded compliment.
He was asked right after that. He was asked, it was mentioned to him that that's probably because it was Bradley that they were playing. He goes, "Yeah, probably."
I mean, and that's where you want to be.
we do
right?
have the bullseye on our
Yeah, but
back
that's where you want to
front.
be. Brad says it all the time about Notre Dame. They're not going to catch anybody sleeping. You're not
No.
going to come in and underestimate Notre Dame. I mean, they're a brand. So when it comes down to this conference, it happens. But I think I don't know if you guys got the email. I saw it on Twitter that apparently the university sent an email talking about the dress code for what section you're sitting in, and all the sections were red. And I'm like, that's actually kind of funny. I thought that was pretty good, but I'm also like, in today's age, you kind of have to make sure you remind everybody how to do the simplest stuff. Right. So, it is what it is, but it is going to be a big game, and we are going to do something for it, either the day after, probably on Monday. I think we talked about Monday, but they need this win, and I feel confident about it. But overall, I know you guys are confident, but do you guys see them eking it out? Do you see it being a tough game, or how confident are you?
It's going to be a ball game. I fully expect it to be a good basketball game and tight down to the wire. And I mean, I'm confident in this team to go out there and put forth a good effort. Obviously, that's all this team has control over is how they play. And if this team plays their best basketball or something close to it, they're going to be very difficult to beat. And now, if Drake shows up with their best game, we're in for a real treat tomorrow as college basketball fans. I can tell you that much. So,
but Drake struggles against teams like us. So,
elaborate.
I'm saying elaborate.
Yes.
Missouri State.
Struggling against teams named Bradley.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, because we get after it, we can run up and down. We run up and down the floor against, with Drake like we can. Brody's going to be too wore out to do a whole lot of damage. I mean, and they don't have anybody outside of Ferguson to replace him.
You just guaranteed that Brody's going to go for like 30
I know.
tomorrow.
No, I'm just.
But you're right. The way we play fast, we play pretty fast, I think, compared to maybe how we have in the past. And I think that is definitely going to cause a guy like that some problems for sure. And I love what Todd said, man. Bradley blowout by 15. That'd be fantastic.
Well, if we come out clicking on all cylinders, both sides of the floor for both halves, it's going to. Yeah, I 100% agree.
Possible. I mean, this team is possible of beating that team that badly. Absolutely.
Yep.
But you kind of want that, right? Like you would love to see that, only not just from a fan perspective where you're like, oh, I love seeing my team blow out one of our rivals, but after this loss to come out and have such a definitive win and be clicking on all cylinders, it's like, maybe this is the start of this run that we're going to make. And it would be a confidence builder because no matter where they end up in Arch Madness, they're going to have to probably play Drake to get to Indiana State if they're on that side of the bracket. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, they could lose. So a good confidence booster, in my opinion, a home game. I'm feeling really good about it. It's going to be my second game watched ever, but I'm not going to be 0-2. I don't feel it.
No way, man. And Todd said revenge game for the tournament last year. I mean, it's very possible we could play Drake 3 times like in the next month. Yeah. And it'd be nice to set the tone right away with a definitive win.
Yeah, and the big difference this year playing them in the tournament they would be our second game and not our third.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're all tough. But watching it, we're hyping it up, and somebody will knock them. The UIC will knock them off.
Hey,
you'll
take
like
it. You're not going to complain about upsets in that tournament as long as it's not Bradley being upset.
Of course.
Too early. Of course. Well, gentlemen, do you have anything else to add about this particular game or anything else? We're going to be breaking down next week's action when we break down the game on Monday, I think, Monday night. But do you have anything else you want to add about this week's action or anything that you want to get off your chest?
I don't think so.
No. I do think it was interesting that I did make a note of it. I didn't mention it earlier. All the games that were going on while all the Valley games were within 5 points at halftime the other night, which I thought was exciting. I mean, obviously Indiana State absolutely drubbed Valpo, but every other game was tight, and they all finished pretty tight too. And that's what you want to see in a league like this time of year. And a lot of people sell this league short, but it's a good basketball league. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of great games tomorrow and this weekend as well that are going to be highly contested. One thing, I did want to mention something. I wanted to get to this at the top, but we kind of got off to the weird start, and then we got rolling. Wanted to get into the games. So I was listening back to our first episode the other day, which honestly I don't like to do. I usually don't go back and listen to podcasts I'm a part of because I tend to pick myself apart a little bit. And this is, I guess, a case of that, but I think it's valid here. I made a comment about how we have 4 wasted scholarships, and that did not sit well with me at all when I heard that come out of my mouth listening back, because that's incredibly disrespectful to those 4 players, to Gonar and Connor and Sam and Cade. Like, those guys contribute to this team in ways that aren't going to show up in a box score and that are incredibly meaningful, and they bust their tails every day at practice. I have no doubt about that. And, especially the older guys, that have been there on scholarship. Connor's been there, 4, maybe 5 years, maybe the COVID year. I can't say for sure. And Gonar's been here for a couple of years. And then obviously Cade and Sam have been here for a bit too. And to put that time in and not get rewarded with minutes off very often takes a special kind of character and a special kind of person. And so I definitely think that it was I didn't give those guys the respect they deserve when I said that, because I love those guys, man. I love that entire team, man. Player 1 through 13, every single one of them. And those guys are meaningful members of the Bradley basketball family and of that program, and they contribute to the product that we see on the floor every time out, with the work they put in practice on the scout team and push. And obviously, Cade's getting in a little bit here and there and giving us some minutes. So I just wanted to get that one off my chest, because it just has not set well with me at all the last few days. And I thank you guys, for those of you that may have listened and heard it, for kind of giving me grace and not coming at me about it. Nobody said anything to me about it. This is just a me being unhappy with me thing. So, thank you for that. And yeah.
Well, I have thoughts about that, because I said it earlier, right? The way that this show started, I will let everybody know who's never tuned into us before, that has never happened. It has never happened to me. I flubbed the beginning of it. The sound went out. Everything happened. It's never happened. And we're not professionals. We're not journalists, but we care deeply about putting on a good product for you. And we're also human beings. We're going to say things that either you don't agree with, or maybe we didn't say it quite the right way. And I would guarantee that every single person who has tuned into this so far, between this episode and the last, has said something in their life that they're like, I wish I could reword that, or maybe that wasn't fair. It's going to happen. We're going to be critical at times, because as fans, you are critical of the teams that you watch. But one of the things you're going to get from this show is the love and passion for Bradley basketball from those 2 gentlemen over there. And you never know. You may convert me. I may become a part of the family as time goes on over here.
Well, how can you not?
Well, you got to remember, you have to remember, I did go to a fairly large university in Blacksburg, Virginia for 5 years. So my loyalties were developed quite a long time ago now, but doesn't mean that there isn't room for more. So Brad, you bring all this up, right? And I think one thing we should acknowledge before we sign off here is the response that we received, and there I just dropped my pen, you see? The response that we received in the days after Saturday's episode was, I would say, it's overwhelming. I thought that Saturday was great. I thought we introduced ourselves to the Bradley universe in a pretty great way with Rick, your history, the story between you and Brad, and everything that you guys have had and shared through Bradley basketball. But for Home of the Brave to pick it up and be supportive, for so many alums, so many people who just love this team to be following us on Twitter, X, whatever, and just sharing and saying supportive things, it means a lot to us, because Brad and I have been doing Iceman and Coach since October of 2022, and we have not received that much love combined in all the other episodes that we have done, outside of maybe the Lionel Messi episode that Brad very astutely walked through his vast knowledge of the Ballon d'Or winner, or the eight-time winner of it. So we want to say thank you for sure. And gentlemen, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but that's how I felt this week. And I know for Brad, it was maybe a little like, whoa, this is happening real fast, but it was awesome. And I think it was well-deserved from us.
Yeah, I agree completely. Seriously, thank you everybody for the support. It's been great, and hopefully it just grows and grows. And we're all in this together, man. Like, I love the input from everybody. I love the interaction in the comment section. I love the comments on the posts on X, and the direct messages we've received from many people, just striking up conversations, wanting to get involved and being a part of this in some way, shape, or form. that's fantastic. And we want to do all of those things with all of you. So it's just exciting to have another place, and we don't have a lot of them as Bradley fans, but to have another place where we can come together and celebrate our passion and our fandom when it comes to Bradley basketball. Because I know that it's, for a lot of people, there aren't a lot of casual Bradley fans. Like, your Bradley fans have been Bradley fans since the womb, right? And they are very very passionate and very invested in this basketball program.
Yes. So definitely awesome. And what do we have going forward? Last time we kind of didn't know what we were going to do, but we have some things lined up. As Brad said, we got some support and some messages from some folks. One of them was Home of the Brave, which is the NIL collective, and they've been massively supportive. Some of the guys that have been in touch with me are going to come on here probably to preview the Illinois State game that's in a couple of weeks. And then we also have Matt McClain, who is the color commentator for ESPN Plus for Bradley home games. He's going to come on here a couple days before the start of Arch Madness to preview the whole tournament with us and kind of talk about his Bradley fandom. So this is going hot and heavy right now. We're trying to get guests. We're trying to figure out a way to get people to share their thoughts. And maybe it won't happen in the time between now and the end of the season because there's not a lot of time. And I'm a family man. Brad's a family man. You know, Rick's a family guy. So, like, we got a lot of stuff going on, but we're going to try to do all of it. If you have anything you want to hear from us about, you have the number at the bottom of the screen. But for those in audio, 703-718-6314. You can email icemanandcoach@gmail.com. You can find us on X, TikTok, Facebook, a whole assortment of things. If you want to watch us on YouTube, hopefully you've hit subscribe by now. But if you want to listen to us in audio as well, Iceman and Coach is where you can find it. And we're coming hot and heavy for Bradley basketball between now and the end of the season. So, gentlemen, I had a great time tonight. I hope that Bradley Nation had a good time tonight. And we'll see you next time. This is Braves Talk.
Go be you.
Fans, it's time now to meet the starters